The story takes place in a remote mountain tribe in the United States. A royal legion, under the banner of witch hunters, launches an attack on them with ill intentions. The blind king leads the tribe, blowing the horn and preparing to charge the enemy. Look at their cautious advance, then take a closer look at their pupils. Have you noticed? They are all blind. After the outbreak of the human pandemic in the 21st century, the global population dwindled to less than 2 million. They are the last survivors on Earth. A virus stripped them of their sight, while some evolved differently. For instance, wind ears, who can hear sounds beyond the ordinary, sensors, who can foresee the future, and sniffers, with senses sharper than a dog's. The very few who retained their sight are labeled as heretics. Once discovered, they are burned alive by fire. Sadly, the Blind King's tribe is labeled as heretics.
Where's Baba Voss?
Baba Voss is busy.
The mud smeared on their faces isn't for looks. It's to mask their scent with a foul odor, distinguishing friend from foe. They hold their breath, both sides afraid to reveal their positions. Although they can't see, the Blind King's keen hearing allows him to sense the enemy right beneath them. He strikes the ground with his staff and charges forward. His men rush towards the stone wall, launching an attack from above. Neither side can see. But after the enemy falls one by one, the situation suddenly quiets. At the slightest sound, the enemy uses iron hooks to strike. When the Blind King attempts to pull his comrades back, the enemy climbs up their defenses using ropes to protect the tribe. The Blind King decisively takes action. His brutal movements in battle aren't meant to be elegant, but are essential. Most people in this world are blind. If the enemy were given a chance to retaliate, the consequences would be unimaginable. The enemy, with superior numbers, had already prepared long ladders and breached the last line of defense on the stone wall. In desperation, the Blind King changes strategy. He orders an immediate retreat and, as a last resort, cuts off the hidden stone wall. Massive boulders roll down, catching the enemy off guard and burying them without a sound. Once the calm returns, the Blind King asks the Wind Ear if any enemies remain. The Wind Ear replies that not far away, several hundred horses are still breathing. Clearly, those who came earlier were scouts. A larger army is slowly advancing toward them. Now that the stone wall is lost, they are in grave danger and must return to the village to plan their next move. In the cave at this moment, the Blind Queen gives birth to twins, bringing double the joy. Her husband feels his way back into the cave from outside. Unable to contain his joy at becoming a father, his fierce demeanor from earlier fades into tenderness. Even though the children aren't his biological offspring, his love for his wife and children surpasses everything. He even starts planning for the children's future. At this moment, they are unaware that the witch hunters at the foot of the mountain are coming for the birth of the twins. At the top of the mountain, the priest, afraid of death, leads the tribe and threatens the Blind King to hand over the babies in exchange for safety. In this world of blind people, the twins' rare sight will certainly make them targets for the witch hunters. The witch hunters, gathering at the foot of the mountain, prepare to attack. Under the guidance of a traitor, they speed up their assault. Threatening his family pushes the Blind King to his breaking point. He will not hand over the babies unless they step over his dead body. In his bold declaration, his close friend is the first to stand by him, offering support. Then, a female warrior steps forward to speak up for him. Just as both sides stand at a tense standoff, the midwife, the prophet, steps out of the cave to mediate. With time running out, she no longer hides the truth. It turns out that the twins' biological father had entrusted the prophet with a plan for their safety. This sudden disaster was all under Jack's control. He had built a wooden bridge on the back mountain as an escape route from the village, and he is the heretic the witch hunters are hunting. He possesses rare sight and has been wanted nationwide by the witch hunters, forcing him to constantly flee. Under the prophet's guidance, they enter the forest. The wind chimes on either side signaling the bridge is nearby. The prophet follows the sound of the wind chimes, feeling her way forward. Once confirming the bridge is sturdy, she relaxes. Even with a sturdy bridge, crossing it is no easy task for the blind. A misstep, and they might fall into the deep abyss below. As the tribe's leader, the blind king takes on the responsibility of covering the retreat. The keen-nosed hunting dogs lead the witch hunters into the forest. The fast-running hunting dogs quickly reach the blind king's side, barking incessantly. The barking alerts the general.
Silent.
Once the tribe successfully lands, the blind king follows closely, retreating step by step. The tension intensifies. The experienced general realizes that the sudden silence is unusual. Suddenly, the sound of a baby crying comes from across the bridge. In the critical moment, their position is revealed. The witch hunters, following the sound, find the wooden bridge. Since they are all blind, they dare not act recklessly. At this point, the general angrily pushes the traitor onto the bridge and orders him to test the danger first. Sensing danger, the blind king quickens his pace and quickly reaches the shore. With swift cuts, he severs the ropes, blocking the enemy's advance. Just as he raises his sword again, a familiar voice calls out, stopping his actions. Although confused, he doesn't realize that the newcomer has already betrayed the tribe. Without hesitation, he snaps his fingers, guiding the traitor. He lets the traitor follow the sound to quickly land. Unknowingly, this action sets the stage for disaster in the tribe. The screams made the general realize that the plan had failed. The angry expression on his face hinted that he would not let this go easily. During their escape, it wasn't hard to notice Jack's careful planning. Every 500 meters, wind chimes were left behind as markers. They followed them until they reached their destination safely. To avoid the hunting dogs' pursuit, they chose to wade through the water. Following the waterfall, they received Jack's final instructions. Between the valleys, a clear river flowed and fertile plains where they could rebuild their home. Some kissed the grass, believing it would bring them safety. The blind king, holding the dragon and phoenix twins, felt the warmth of the sun. This was the twins' first time seeing the vast sky. As they familiarized themselves with the environment, the prophet reminded the blind king again that the witch hunters would not give up. The tribe rebuilt their home in a hidden valley. However, peaceful life always brings unexpected trouble. The temptation of the bounty led the traitor to sell out the tribe's location again. The informant's message takes the camera to an old, eroded hydroelectric power station where a royal family, said to rule over the land of the blind, is hidden. A naked woman stands there, carefully gazing into the distance, as two servants drape a semi-transparent cloak over her. In that moment, it is clear she is the queen with the highest authority in the station. Her hollow eyes and expressionless face reveal that, like the others, she too is blind. Muttering a prayer, her body trembles slightly, and her method of praying shows a nearly twisted personality. After communicating with the divine, the witch hunter's urgent letter arrives. It is a secret knot tied exclusively for the queen by the witch hunters. When she learns of the general's failure, her anger erupts. Under the banner of eliminating heretics, her goal is to find the biological father of the twins, Jack. For Jack is the first person in centuries to possess rare sight. This scarce ability is coveted by the avant-garde queen, who views it as her own. In an emergency meeting, the queen vows to find Jack to carry on her legacy. Only with Jack's seeds will the royal family's position be secured for the next generation. The blind king, unable to bear children himself, loves the twins dearly, despite not being their biological father. It is precisely because the twins possess rare sight that they have attracted the witch hunters, bringing unnecessary trouble to the tribe. Believing that Jack's sight can better protect the children, the blind king learns from the prophet the route Jack had once taken. Reluctantly, he takes the twins into the forest in search of Jack. However, they encounter a grizzly bear attack. When he gets up again, he realizes the children are lost. The massive grizzly bear catches him off guard, leaving the blind king unable to act recklessly. At this moment, he silently prays for the children to cry, so he can discern their location. The grizzly bear's roar frightens the twins, making them cry and drawing attention. With his acute hearing, the blind king quickly jumps up and distracts the bear. Worried and anxious, the blind king acts in panic, grabbing a piece of wood and hurling it at the grizzly. From the bear's roar, the blind king realizes the grizzly has not been driven away and is not giving up easily. Just as he was about to make a last-ditch effort with a large blade, an arrow, swift and sharp, accompanied by the bear's agonized howl, left him puzzled. When he carefully touched the bear's body, he realized something was amiss. It wasn't until Jack appeared that the blind king finally relaxed and let down his guard. But he had overestimated Jack's sense of responsibility. The purpose of Jack's appearance this time was merely to give him a key, allowing the blind king to open a hidden chest behind the waterfall when the children reached adulthood. At the moment he took the chest key from Jack, the contents of the chest were about to change their fate. The blind king called his family to open the chest together. From the search, they found an advanced model of a sailboat, which puzzled them. They even thought it was just a toy for the children. At the very bottom of the chest were hidden books, which, to the blind, were nothing more than a pile of bark for warmth. The prophet, however, seemed to have a different perspective on these items.
Their books are in the holy shape. They are silent. You can burn them, but they are more powerful than fire. The secrets of the age of vision.
She knew that knowledge would guide them toward a new destiny, but the blind queen did not want the children to take any risks with the unknown future, especially since the children might truly have inherited the ability to see. If discovered, they would undoubtedly face the witch hunter's brutal tortures. To verify whether the children truly had sight, she placed the sailboat model on the ground and commanded the children to retrieve it within 10 seconds. The children completed the task in under 3 seconds. But as a mother, she did not feel joy from the result. Her suppressed expression revealed her deep concern for their future. For their safety, she decided to keep the secret hidden for the rest of her life. She buried the chest in the mountain behind their home and vowed never to speak of it again. The camera transitions to the day the children came of age. The prophet brought up the chest again and urged the blind queen to hand it over to the children. But the blind queen was still reluctant to let go. Only by keeping the secret could they ensure their safety. Today was the twins' 16th birthday. On this cold night, the prophet called them over to her side. For the future of the tribe, she decided to hand over the secret chest that she had kept for 16 years. But when the children asked about the origins of the books, the prophet truthfully told them that it was a coming-of-age gift from their biological father. Faced with the love of their adoptive father, the children felt an emotional conflict they couldn't easily accept. Their curiosity sparked a desire to explore the knowledge within. Every day, they secretly went to the waterfall, starting to delve into the advanced ideas the books offered. But on one such day, danger awaited them. Because his son was captured by slave traders, he came alone to rescue him. The moment his son signaled to confirm his presence, the long-accumulated rage erupted from the bend of his blade. Although blind, his extremely sensitive hearing allowed him to quickly discern the enemy's position. A seasoned veteran, he tossed a handful of sand, using it to confuse and attract the attention of the fellow blind enemies. The rare tactic made the slave trader leader realize that the intruder was no ordinary foe. As the sound of enemy footsteps became clearer, he lowered his body and quickly took down 2 enemies. Using the echo from the curved blade scraping the ground, he moved swiftly toward the wall, adjusting his breath to adopt a defensive stance. Before the enemy revealed their position, the enemies slowly advanced toward him, exposing their location. Using the wall for leverage, the blind king suddenly launched a second attack. At this point, only the leader remained on the battlefield. The scent of blood drove him to madness.
The great Baba Voss. The great coward.
It turned out they had known each other for some time. Old grudges would have to be settled today. He lowered his body again, trying to reduce the noise of his steps and breaths, while the disfigured leader muttered incantations to provoke him and expose his position. The blind king tossed his sword, baiting the enemy to strike first, but the enemy, already at a disadvantage, used a coin toss trick to throw off the blind king. His inexperienced son, in a moment of panic, made an audible sound, unintentionally revealing his position and getting captured as a hostage. The threat to his son was the blind king's breaking point. Unable to resist, his quick blade cut open the leader's belly, ending the years of rivalry with a single strike. This strike avenged his son's capture. Having just fought hard to rescue his son, a large group of witch hunters followed closely behind. The blind king and his family were forced to the small river where a fierce battle on the water was about to take place. The anxious father had spent his whole life worrying about his children's safety. This sailboat had been secretly constructed when they were still young, for he had long suspected that such a day would come. Under the guidance of a traitor, the witch hunters hastened their pursuit. The journey was stopped by a small river, and the boat, being for blind people, proved to be quite effective. The incredibly sensitive hunting dogs continued to bark, alerting the general. The general urgently ordered his men to surround both banks. Muttering incantations, the general hoped to lure the enemies out. The sensitive witch hunters prepared their iron hooks, waiting for the right moment to strike. The people on the boat held their breath, daring not to move, hoping the river's flow would carry them through. After some insulting words, the general ordered the witch hunters to enter the deep waters, to begin a carpet-style search. The blind king, holding a large knife, quietly entered the water, always ready for a defensive stance. Facing death, his son's breath grew heavier in fear. Nearby, a soldier with keen hearing quickly threw a hook, striking one enemy. In an instant, the clear river water was tainted with blood. Amid the chaos, the enemies quickly locked onto their target. The hook was thrown once again, threatening the people on the sailboat. The blind king, who had been fighting on the shore, had no choice but to quickly return using the rope. Before the blind king could return, in a desperate moment, his children began to fight back fiercely. The sighted Hania used her bow to take down each of the hook throwers. Facing the looming danger, the blind queen, unwilling to be outdone, pulled a knife from her pants to defend herself. The blind king arrived swiftly and pulled the enemy into the river, leaving them no chance to retaliate. At this moment, the general brought the traitor to the shore. Hania decisively shot an arrow into the traitor's abdomen.
What lies downriver?
I've been run through open water, it's deep water. You will not be able to catch them.
The sailboat slowly moved out of the shallow waters, and the witch hunters on the shore temporarily lost their tracking target. To ensure the safety of his two children, the blind king decided to take them to find Jack. On the other side, the failed witch hunter operation had driven the fiercely radical queen to the brink of madness. However, this did not mean she would back down. Even though the losses were heavy and the treasury was depleted, the queen was determined to find Jack, no matter the cost. With the witch hunters yielding no results on their expedition, the ministers began to worry about their families, who had been away at war for so long. This was the first time the queen's authority was challenged by her subordinates. After the meeting, the ministers began to secretly plot, thinking of ways to remove this unjust queen. But they were all blind, underestimating the shadow agents the queen had sent. The shadow agents could gather information on the rebellion without a sound. When the queen learned she was about to lose the empire her father had built, she began to panic. In a daze, with tears in her eyes, she came to the control panel, kneeling before the statue of her deceased father, telling him that the empire would soon be destroyed in her hands. After exchanging pleasantries, she fumbled her way to the main switch and began closing the gates one by one. In an instant, the old dam, unable to withstand the pressure of the water, started to collapse. After saying her final goodbye in front of her father's statue, the queen, along with her attendants, boarded the prepared carriage and left the power station. It was then that her subordinates finally realized that their master had abandoned them. Countless lives would be swallowed by the flood and the collapsing buildings, resting here forever. Meanwhile, the blind king and his family reached the shore as night fell. The long time spent drifting had made the blind king's son feel guilty. He just wanted to find a quiet corner to reflect on his life. By dawn, the camp's weapons and valuables were all stolen. More importantly, the blind queen's father's keepsake, which she had been keeping, was also missing. This made the blind queen extremely anxious. Clearly, the keepsake was of great importance. She told the blind king that they must find it before nightfall. At this moment, the son's gaze was drawn to a shadow in the distance, deep in the forest. His sister, who also had sight, noticed the strange presence ahead. The lost item of their mother was likely connected to this mysterious figure, so they decided to venture into the forest to investigate. The pile of plastic bottles and bags in front of them shocked the sighted child, as the air was filled with a stinging smell, eroded by time. Unarmed, the blind king dared not act recklessly. The curious daughter immediately spoke up, deciding to act alone while telling her father and brother to stay behind. If any danger arose, she would send out a signal for help. Hania slowly entered the wall formed by piles of bottles and jars. The builders had carefully hidden many traps and tricks inside. Fortunately, she had sight and successfully avoided them. As she stepped out of the wall, the enemy had already positioned themselves high above, watching her every move. In a conspicuous spot, she finally found her mother's item, but she didn't realize that it was a trap set by the enemy. By the time the others arrived, the daughter had already fainted and was unconscious. In a critical moment, the blind king leapt suddenly, knocking the enemy aside to rescue his son. The mark on the enemy's chest made the daughter call for her father to stop. To her shock, this person was actually their half-brother. Jack had been wandering around and fathered many children. Faced with such a scoundrel, the blind queen had to start worrying about her children's future. However, considering the witch hunter's pursuit, she decided to bring the young man along on their journey.